All systems nominal. Five, four, three, two, one. Signal array locked in. Packet sync confirmed. Welcome all. You're connected to the Techno Chat Deep Space Signal Relay.
Hello. Another week's passed. I can't believe it. They're just going so goddamn fast these days. It's bizarre. I hope you're all well. I hope you've been keeping safe and enjoying yourselves. And just a little bit more of the same today. We've got some options to have chit chat. I thought I'd go over some of the stuff on the TR8S that was brought up in questions that I got last week. Particularly things like fill-ins, so we can have a look at how those work. I haven't had a chance to make any sounds ready for today's stream, so I'm going to be doing that from scratch a little bit, so we'll have another go with that. I need to find my chat window because that's not working at the minute, but we'll get that up. So yeah, I hope you're doing good, and yeah, we'll give it a go. So this is all I've got so far. Hopefully you can hear. Let me get my chat window up. I think I'll give myself a bit of a timer again so that I don't spend forever making sounds. And I'll see if I can get that camera out of the way. In fact, I'll switch so that we can see the circuit that I'm going to start editing sounds on. Hey Inky, thanks for joining. Right, let's see if we can get something useful out of this sound. That's a bit much. Maybe we can get this a bit of a ring modulation sound. There we go, that sounds alright. What have you been up to, Inky? Anything fun? Hopefully you can hear. If we could do a mic check, that would be really appreciated. Okay. Needs something more to it. That's a bit of a start. I'll perhaps have a think. Maybe I'll do a slightly different pattern on there. Okay. I think also that's kind of fun, getting the portamento in there. 5 minutes left. Get your skates on mic.
You have 5 minutes remaining.
It's not inspiring me yet. Let's have a think. Any ideas in the chat? Throw any ideas at me. I think actually if I change that change that synth line so that I've got a waveform which I can modulate a bit, because basic sawtooth is not going to be possible.
I'm all about that bass. No trouble.
I knew that would trick me sometime. That is my new friend. I'll introduce her in a bit. Okay. So we've got digital vocal. Play that again. And I'll use an LFO to change that. So LFO1. LFO1 to change the pulse width of oscillator 2. There we go. It's got a bit of variety to it now, at least. Maybe we can do something similar with the second synth. Mixer, that one. So again, LFO, oscillator, pulse width. There we go. What else can we do? Maybe we'll change this. Instead of being a low pass filter, we'll make it band pass. Yeah, quite like that. Okay. And I can get rid of that timer now, I think. Okay, I think that'll do. I think I can do something with that. Inky, hi. I'm really hoping that my voice is coming through because of the number of things I've screwed up in the past with microphones and stuff. So if you could give me a quick hello or something like that, that would be much appreciated. And then I'll have another go at getting some sounds up and running. Yeah, it's been the kind of week where my feet don't seem to have touched the ground. I've had an awful lot on with my day job, and we've had family members who've been a bit unwell, so it's been a bit tough in that sense. I've not had a chance to prep much for music or to record any videos or anything, unfortunately. But I've got this evening, and we've got a bit of time. We can say hello. I wanted to, like I say, I want to have a look at fill-ins in particular on the TR8S because that's something that I think a couple of people have been struggling with. And we can make sure that we cover that. That's pretty straightforward. I thought also if I can get it working, I'd have a look at some other YouTubers who've been making some really great music, some really cool stuff. There's a few that I regularly check in on, and they do live jams. They don't tend to talk too much or do any personal appearances. And I just thought that given that I'm a mouthy so-and-so who'll talk for hours if given the chance, I thought I'd perhaps try and expose some of their work and give other people a chance to see that if they haven't yet. So that could be sort of fun. Yeah, that's pretty much the plan for today. We can answer any questions that you might have too if you're struggling with anything. So yeah, let me see if I can change something about that bass line, and then I can try and evolve it into a slightly more, what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm all about that bass. No trouble.
Yeah, she's going to keep doing that. Yeah, do a few more of those and try and change the pattern a little bit so that it evolves. So yeah, let's jump on with that. Yeah, I think if I can do something that's slightly faster in the bass line like that, and then switch back to that earlier pattern for perhaps just creating a bit of variety.
I'm all about that bass. No trouble.
I'm going to have to switch her off. I'm struggling with my chat window. This is one of the reasons I'm faffing about right now. Get that up on the screen here for me. Just 1 second here, guys. There we go. Quite like that sound. Racking my brains here. Give it a try. Andreas Weber, hello, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining. Just making some sounds at the minute. Going to pull together a little loop and then see if I can improvise with that. Leave a message in the chat with what kind of stuff you're into, whether you're hardware or whether you make music of your own, that kind of stuff. So yeah, and any questions you might have, I'll do my best to answer. That's probably enough to get me warmed up to start with. Okay. So what have you guys been up to this week? Any music making, other bits and pieces? Be good to hear. So, as you probably heard, I had a couple of interruptions earlier on in the stream. I've got a friend who's joined in the space capsule here, so I'll have to introduce you to her. This is Connie.
Hello. My name is Connie and I am the primary AI substrate responsible for the day-to-day running of the Conotop deep space signal relay. Apparently there is a human on board to which I must defer, but despite zettaflops of computing power I have no idea what he thinks he does all day. Feel free to leave a message in the chat and maybe that will give him something useful to do.
Yeah, I think she's in charge actually, not me. So I have to put up with that. I think it's going to be an ongoing theme. So, yeah, as I said, one of the first things that I wanted to do is have a look at the fill-in function on the TR8S because I had a couple of questions about that. I am by no means an expert on how the hardware works. I've got a few things that I know how to do with it, and I know those inside out, but a lot of the functions are pretty difficult to get at unless you can memorize various shift controls and different button combinations and stuff. So the fill-in is not too bad. It doesn't have too much complicated stuff to deal with. So I'll jump over to that now. Hopefully you can see the readout display there. If you can't, give me a shout and I'll add a second camera, but I was going to try and avoid doing that. But the fill-in function is really, really handy. If I just run a normal pattern, then using that button there, this one, you can throw in a fill pretty much at any time you want, and it's quantized to the end of a bar, so it gives you a proper fill that matches in with everything. And you've got 3 different types of fill that you can choose from. You've got a user 1, a user 2, and then there's the scatter function. So Inky says, can't see the screen, but do we need to? To be fair, probably not. It's one of those things that it's probably handy to have that visible sometimes, but yeah, maybe in this instance it's not too important. So I'll jump over to the TR8S and I'll explain what I'm talking about. This is the problem. My mic stand doesn't really reach that far. So if you press Shift and Edit, Shift and the auto fill in edit button, then that gives you the choice of which of the fill-ins you're going to be using. So it'll let you choose between fill-in editing number 1 or editing number 2. And those are 2 basic user patterns that you can choose, and they are very much like one of the variations A through H. You can pick whichever instruments you want to be doing whatever you want for a full bar, and to choose which of those you want to use when you do a fill, you press and hold that same edit button, and then you pick any of those 3 last buttons there, because underneath it you'll see it says fill in, 1, 2, or scatter. So basically that using Shift and these 3 buttons lets you pick which fill in you want to use, and Shift and Edit the fill lets you actually control the pattern of 1 or 2. So I'll make a fill number 1, and then I'll show you how that sounds in with the drums. So on fill-in number 1, I've literally just put kick drums all the way along. So this is the pattern that was running on variation A, and then when I hit the auto fill button, it should just give us kick drums all the way through. There we go. And if you use this control here, that lets you change how often you want an automatic fill. There we go. So that's a handy basic function. And then obviously I can create a second fill, which is version 2. And on this one, I've just put some hi-hats. So if I do a fill-in now, I can choose between fill-in number 1, which is all kick drums, fill-in number 2, which is all hi-hat. So I'll show you that. Hey Peter, yeah. So that's the basic way of using the 2 user-defined fill-ins, and then you've got the third option, which is the scatter. So again, if I pick the scatter button, that's selected scatter as a fill, and I'll show you what that sounds like. So the scatter is very dependent on the sound selection that you've got. What it tends to do is reverse some hits and double up on some others. And as I say, it depends really on the pattern that you've designed and the sounds that you're using as to whether it works really or whether it sounds just a bit dodgy. What is kind of fun though is that you can hit the fill button and then change the type of scatter, because within the scatter fill you've got like I think it might be 12 different variations. So I'll show you that. So that's one of those functions that is very easy to overlook, but if you take the time to prepare a couple of patterns with it for each of the tracks that you're making, then it can really sort of liven things up a little bit. It's very easy to get caught in that sort of 4/4 loop that just keeps going and going, and unless you've either kind of got a way of breaking that by using a secondary synthesizer or altering a lot of your sounds on the fly, you can really find yourself just kind of stuck in a loop a little bit. So that's perhaps a bit of a tip for you. I can't remember who it was who asked about that earlier. It was either last week or on Instagram, but hopefully that's helped out. Peter T, good of you to join us. Thank you. You can motion record that too. How do you do a motion record of a fill? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. Yeah, again, motion recording, something that's pretty cool. I tend, if I'm going to do it, then I tend to prepare it using the editor. I mean, it's like anything; it just depends on your preference or your style. But I find if I want to get something that's pitched changed, then trying to do that with a dial on the fly it's not so easy. But yeah, cool. I didn't even think you could do that with the fills, but it makes sense because they're just patterns in a sense, really, as you said. So let me pull up the editor again. I've hidden it on my screen. Okay. What other good stuff is there on here that I could give you an introduction to if you've... Yes, turning it on and off in live. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's something that, as you say, you can prepare a change to the sound using the motion. Perhaps start a track without it, so you've got like a rhythmic build, a kind of a more static pattern, and then when you do a drop or when you build into the main part of the track, you could turn the motion on. One of the videos that I did a couple of months back that seemed to be quite helpful to people was about the FM sound models. I thought I could perhaps run through some of the others. The ACB ones tend to be pretty self-explanatory, I would say. There's not a lot to talk about on those. They've got like maybe one or two controls, because all they're doing in a sense is modeling the traditional Roland analog gear. The clever thing about them is they are doing that pretty well. They're giving a pretty accurate representation of circuitry which is full of nuance and variation because of the old analog style circuitry. But if we go to something like let's do unfortunately I can't show you the control panel where I'm selecting sounds from because it won't screen capture, but if I pick something like the samples, where are we? Let's do that. So if I pick a kick drum that's based on a sample rather than either the analog circuit behavior or FM, this is something different. This is what's called a PCM, and that stands for pulse code modulation. Which is a...
I'm all about that bass. No trouble.
I didn't say that word. I'm gonna turn her off in a minute. Yeah, pulse code modulation is essentially sampling, because what you're doing is you're changing the position on a wave based on some coded information. So a standard waveform is being modulated by the code. So
I'm all about that bass. No trouble.
I am turning her off. She's annoying me now. Right, turned her off. Okay, so pulse code modulation. This gives you all of these controls here, which are at first perhaps a little bit daunting, but they are very manageable once you get the hang. So that's the basic kick drum sample. And coarse tune is literally the pitch of it. And as you'd expect with a sample, if you pitch it down, it slows down the playback rate of the sample. So that's why it sounds longer if you turn it all the way down. And the way that's set up, I think, is that it will give you semitones in terms of pitch. That's why this second control here, rate, is actually a different thing, albeit it has the same effect. Because if I slow down the rate that the sample is played back at, then that will pitch it down again. The difference being here that you can actually go to 0 playback rate and even further and actually reverse the rate of the sample. So if I put that on here, that's obviously playing back quite slow, and that's not playing at all. If I go even further, that's reversed the kick drum completely. PK, hi, how are you doing? Nice of you to pop in. What are we doing today? We're kind of making it up as we go, mate. I thought today I would cover a few bits on the TR8S because that seems to be a lot of people's favorite content that I'm making at the minute. I've covered the fill-in function. I can go over that again if there's some bits and pieces that you want to learn about that. But I think probably at the minute, if I just carry on, I was just talking about the ACB samples because I did one about FM sounds as a video. So yeah, so we've got coarse tune, which is your semitone sort of pitching of the sample. And then the rate is, as I say, that's the rate at which the sample plays back. So you can even reverse it. Spread is a way of creating like a wider stereo field. I think what it does is actually plays the sample different between left and right ears. So if you've got a stereo sample, it will take those two channels and it will offset them in time very slightly. So it sounds like it's widening the stereo field. If it's a mono sample, that sort of change is also taking place very slightly. So that's a pretty good way of creating some stereo effect for samples. But one thing to bear in mind is that if you do that with your low end, your kick drums or your sub bass, you can introduce phasing, which is problematic sometimes in bass. Effectively, what you're doing is you're taking two copies of the waveform and you're sliding them apart, so the peaks will happen in the left ear and the right ear at different times. The problem with that, as I say, phasing, that means that the waveforms can start to lose power, if you like. The fact that a peak and a trough might happen at the same time can mean that you kind of reduce the overall output of the sound. So you can do it. There's no problem with doing it. It's just it might have unintended consequences if you're not careful. Bit rate, that's pretty straightforward. What you're doing is reducing the rate, the quality of the sample. Now, could go into a bit of detail on this, and maybe I'll save that for another time, particularly since I've not done all the revision in my own head as to exactly what's going on. But when you have a sample, you've got sample rate and you've got bit rate, which are describing basically how quickly the computer is checking for new bits of information in a sound and outputting that. So if you've got a low bit rate, what you're basically saying is you've got, for 1 second of time, you've only got a few different samples which describe that sound. So if you reduce that, then you get a lower quality sound. So that's why you get the crunchy effect. Attack is pretty straightforward. That's how quickly does the sound reach its maximum volume. Is this a new TR8S editor, says PK? Not really, no. This one's been around for a while. I'm just covering some of the information on there in case people haven't come across it before. I'm not sure exactly when the editor came out, but it's been up for at least a couple of years, I think. In all honesty, I couldn't use this machine without it now. It would just drive me nuts trying to program stuff just on that little screen. But plenty of people do, and they have great results. So that's a me thing. It's not like an essential. So yeah, attack is how quickly the sound hits its maximum volume. And then hold time describes once the sample has been triggered, when does it fade away or when does it go away? So you can change that to whole, which basically means the whole sample. So regardless of how long the sample is held, it will just keep going and play the whole thing. You can have time, which is described by this control here, or you can have step. So you can pick how many steps that sample will play, and each one of these along the bottom here is a step. So that's that. Here is a filter, which is hopefully pretty straightforward for most synth enthusiasts. So you've got low pass and high and a cutoff and resonance. So that cuts off the top end frequencies. And the resonance describes when you've got a cutoff of the frequencies at the frequency at which everything below it is being removed. At that point, you've got a peak. So that emphasizes the frequency that is the cutoff frequency. PK, yeah, no, the editor didn't come out when the TR-8S first released. It was... I'm guessing it was probably around a year or so after it came out that the editor was available. So I'm pretty sure Roland didn't even advertise that they were going to produce an editor. I think it was just one of those things that came out of the blue. Similarly with the Novation circuit, Novation did a really good job on that, upgrading it rapidly over a period of maybe 2 or 3 years. Roland, similarly, I think, have done a great job on this. And that's why I think these two devices have sort of stuck with me, really. Okay, so filter attack, that is a description of how long it takes for the filter to start affecting the sound. So if I take that up, and then adjust the envelope, that will decide how much time it takes for the filter to affect the sound. So if I increase that envelope amount, so those two controls work together. And similarly with the decay, this is also part of the envelope control. Is the editor a VST? No, it's not. There is, I think, a Max for Live device that will work in combination with Ableton, though. I have tried that and it was okay. I mean, I can't remember exactly what it does. I think it was more sort of mapping MIDI messages from Ableton to the TR-8S, but to the best of my recollection, and it's been a while since I tried it, it didn't let you edit sounds, certainly not into the detail that you can in the editor here. It's one of those things, isn't it? The most useful stuff that you can come up with, Roland have actually locked down. This kind of stuff isn't controllable by MIDI at all. It's purely some proprietary data transmission between the software and the hardware unit. So I'd love it if Roland unlocked this so that other programmers could do clever stuff with it. I mean, that would be amazing, because I know there's, well, the number of bits of software that I've played with recently that have been made by independent, just general programmers, clever people that do amazing things. They kind of knock the spots off of some of the manufacturers, to be honest. There was another editor for Circuit by another company in conjunction with Novation, and when Novation released theirs, the company just published "So long and thanks for all the fish." Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of it because I did have it on my old PC. Isotonic. They created the editor. It did everything for the synth parts of the circuit. It didn't touch the samples though. But the interface was a bit clunky, and there were one or two bits that sometimes crapped out. But in general, it was perfectly functional. It was really good. And then Novation brought out their component software to start with, which was initially just web based, and I was kind of annoyed by that. It was, trying to remember. I think it was Facebook. You had to log into it with Facebook, and that was horrible. That's the kind of move that really made me annoyed. It's like, why do you need my Facebook login in order to use a piece of music editing software? Anyway, that's what they did. And then probably 9 months or so after that, they released a standalone editor, which made a lot more sense. And that, as I say, has been developed quite a lot, and I think is really good now. I thoroughly recommend using that if you get a circuit. Yeah, the Isotonic editor it was just like a million dials all on the screen. All of them looked the same. They just had a couple of text bits underneath. Okay, and the last control, last but not least, on the ACB functions is this filter velocity. Now, velocity, if you're not aware, is how hard a key is struck, and that's measured in MIDI, or that's recorded in MIDI data. So at the bottom here, one of the motion controls that you've got is velocity. You've got velocity, probability, tune, decay, and control. Now, control is whatever you want it to be. You can pick your control element from all of the other parameters that are in this select box here. So you can give one of these dials over to controlling, let's say, I don't know, filter cutoff. So if I turn this dial, that controls my filter cutoff. But equally, using the control here, if I put some motion on there and then turn the motion on and then play back a pattern, that's changing the filter cutoff throughout the pattern. If Roland opened up their code or usability, they would sell more gear. I have no doubt you're right. That's my feeling. Anytime you get something technology-based, like synthesizers or music editing software or whatever, if you go open source, clever people do amazing things with it. Like, I'm not one of those clever people. I can't program, but I can understand what a programmer does to the level of being able to see that if they've got the ability to code something, they can make it do X. And I know for a fact that if Roland made all of these dials editable by either MIDI controls or system exclusive controls, you could have a full-on what are they called? A MIDI controller with 1,000 different dials, and then instead of having to use an editor like this, you could map stuff directly onto here. So you could change pretty much any parameter on the fly by using a secondary controller for the TR-8S. The short-sightedness is just incredible. Rant over, sorry. So if I put the filter, if I can't get my words out. If I attribute some velocity control to the filter and turn off the motion that I just recorded, and instead program in some velocity changes for these kicks, you can hear that filter is changing its cutoff point based on the velocity of the notes. So there you go. That's a brief, long-winded introduction to the ACB features. That's the sorry, not ACB, the PCM features. So any sample you get, including your own user samples that you upload to the TR8S, you've got that set of controls to work with, which is pretty amazing. You can do an awful lot with those to stretch sounds, to reverse them, change the grittiness of them with the bit reduction, increase the stereo field, and filter them over time with the motion control and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty awesome. Any questions on that while I'm on the subject? Because that's a lot of talking. What do you think, Connie?
Look, I'm busy keeping the oxygen supply running. Can't you figure this one out without me, or are you willing to hold your breath for a bit?
Okay, yeah, I won't ask your opinion for the minute then. I think I prefer to breathe. Alrighty then. I was going to pull up some stuff by other musicians. PK says TR8S would be amazing as an Ableton controller, and as it is also an amazing drum synth. Yes, I agree with that. If these faders could give out MIDI control change and these dials too, that would be really cool. Don't think they do though. Well, I'm sure they don't. I've got another MIDI controller which is from Novation. I'm a bit of a Novation fan just because the price point is so good generally. Their gear tends to be pretty hard wearing. It does what it's supposed to, and it's not super expensive for what it is. So yeah, just I'll let you see what I've got here. So I've delved into the depths. Let's jump to this. If you want a cheap-ish MIDI controller for Ableton, which gives you control over all of the basic mixer functions, or you can just map to whatever you want, I think this one's really good. Excuse all the tape that I've got on there. That's electrical tape, which I've used because I was going to put a load of writing on there to indicate what I was mapping stuff to. But yeah, that's the Launch Control XL. I'm not sponsored by Novation, so they don't get any say over what I tell everybody. But I think it's really cool. It's not super expensive and it's pretty handy. Roland are an odd company at the moment. Yeah, I don't know much about the workings of Roland. All I know is that the gear that they make tends to be pretty good, and if you can get past all of the interface issues, like in order to turn the thing on, you've got to press shift and control and turn a dial and then remember the number you first thought of and multiply by 6, then it'll do what you want. And yeah, Inky says the Novation XL's awesome. Yeah, I kind of like that device. I think it's really good. The problem I've found is I get tempted to add too many MIDI devices. I have actually got a couple more, and then Ableton gets a bit freaked when you plug too many in. PK's got Launchpad Pro 3 and Novation Circuit. Launchpad. I've got the basic Launchpad, which is the one that I was showing you last week. That I've got. There we go. That's my Stream Deck. That's not making any sounds. That's basically so that I can change my cameras. So if I press a button here, then it'll change my cameras. Do that. So that sends MIDI messages to a piece of software called StreamerBot, and StreamerBot then tells the video editing software called OBS to change scenes, and then the cameras all swap round. So yeah, music devices used for video, which is kind of fun. Right. Should we make some more sounds? Because I've been nattering for a long time now. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Connie, start the timer.
Timer activated.
Okay. So let's see if we can make some more music. Peter T, they do send and respond to MIDI CD. Oh, what the... right, the TR8S. Okay, apologies, I got that wrong. There you go. Thank you, Peter, for correcting me. It's only the stuff in the menus of the TR8S that doesn't work with CCs. Right, so, okay, so you've got some decent controls then. There you go. I've not mapped Ableton and the TR8S together too much, really. I've synced them, but I've not really used the MIDI side of things. So I'm glad you corrected. Thank you for that, Peter. Okay, I will save my last patches, and we'll create something new. Session. Okay. Get my default patch uploaded. And the same for the second synth. Okay. Bass sound. Go down 2 octaves. And I'm gonna modulate that waveform almost straight away, I think. Let's do an LFO, pulse width. That's kind of fun. I like that already. And I probably want some sub with that, so I'll put a sine wave. I'm just reading chat while I'm trying to do this. Launchpad Pro 3 or the SLMK. That's the keyboards, isn't it? SLMK. SL Mark III. I'm not sure what the SL is. Please tell us, Inky. I need to get that kick drum again because I've screwed it up. Hold on. Where are we? Here we go. I'll stick with a 909. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Something different. Synth 2. Let's try saw waves. And we'll go with an interval. Let's try 7th. How am I doing? 5 minutes. Put a release on that sound. I think a phaser on that might sound good.
You have 5 minutes remaining.
Thank you for the reminder. And here's a trick that I use sometimes. If you play the same note continuously, but you assign an LFO to the pitch or something like the pitch, you can create some pretty good variation with a bit of luck without actually trying to think of a melodic sequence. So let's try that. LFO1 pitch. Let's go with a sequence for the LFO. Excuse me. Right, let's get some drums. Okay, there we go. So, let me catch up. You guys have been chatting away. Nice to see you. Enjoying things. Inky, you had 3 OG circuits at one point. I have considered getting a second one. I really have. They've held their price pretty well though. So even on eBay, trying to get a second-hand one is it's not exactly a cheap investment. But as I say, I really like the sound that they make. So it's probably worth it one day. I've said to myself, I'm not going to buy any more gear for at least another 6 months. I kind of feel like the more I can get out of what I've got now, the better. So there we go. You've now only got 2. Okay. Novation keyboard with the circuits. Oh yeah, the SLMK. That's a pretty cool piece of kit by the looks of things. I've got the first thing that I bought in the way of MIDI controllers was the tiny keyboard. Trying to remember what it's called. Launch key mini. Gladly own 10 of the OG circuits, says PK. In a few years, when the price drops further, we'll have a mega synth drum machine for sweet FA. Yeah, I hope in time manufacturing side of things can improve, but getting stuff over from China tends to make all the sort of diplomatic things a little bit challenging. Mono Station 2. Yeah, the Mono Station looks pretty cool. I don't know how I'd get on with it. I've got a Bass Station 2, and that has a lot of similarities in terms of the sounds that it makes, I think. And I really like the Bass Station, but I struggle to sort of mix it in with the sounds that I produce. I think analog is something that needs quite a lot of treatment to give it its to give it a finished, polished sound. And I do love it, and I wish I knew more about how to get that kind of polished sound. So Peter says the TR-8S and SP404 Mark II at original prices are incredibly powerful machines. Purchased an 8S for $599 and the Mark II for $499. Yeah, I think the £600 mark was what I saw the TR-8S for originally. I've bought all of my gear apart from the original circuit. I bought on eBay secondhand, including my mixing desk, the TB3. I bought the RC202 looper. I bought that brand new. But I've been very fortunate with eBay. The purchases that I made were actually all in good working order, and nobody tried to scam me. What else we got? Here we go. Add another 20 minutes to the clock. It's Friday night. Happy Friday. Yeah, make mine a double, definitely. I might disappear off and have a beer shortly. Get us... Turning back time to this end of the internet. Get a second circuit. Got a Korg KP mixer with KP3 FX. It's all battery maximum fun. But yeah, the whole battery thing, battery control powered gear is really, really fun, because on occasion I've felt like I want to escape the desk, and everything being powered is a bit difficult. The circuit you can obviously take with you, but only to sort of make patterns and edit existing sound or play with existing sounds. You can't obviously edit it outside of there. You can with an iPad though. That's quite a good tip. If you get a chance to tie a circuit with an iPad, you need a special adapter to take a cable from the USB MIDI the USB output of the circuit to your iPad or your iPhone. But there's an editor that will do that. Monostation more as a drum machine. To be frank, it's not the best bass synth. Yeah, I can imagine that, because the Bass Station 2, as I was talking about, that has this new mode that, well, I say new, this additional mode that Novation added like maybe 2 years ago now, I think, the AFX mode, and you can create like a different synth patch on each note of the keyboard. They call it an overlay. And obviously you could make things like a kick drum sound for one note, a hi-hat for another, and so on. And you could create a drum kit on there. I haven't had the patience to try that yet, but I mean, it looks, to be fair, it looks pretty straightforward. I've had a million other things that I haven't tried. So there we go. What are we? We're coming up to 9 o'clock soon. I'm going to call a halt in the next 10 minutes at the latest, because I've got family that I need to go and see, as well as catching up with you folks. Inky, I brought a sample track so I can go out to Cornish beaches with Circuit, and the sample track record straight to Android phone with the video. That's really cool. I got myself, a few years ago, I got myself a little Zoom recorder, and my what was it called, Novembian project that I did, which I'll plug again. I did an album like 3 years ago now. In November, I did an ambient piece of music as many days as in a row as I could. I produced a new track. I recorded all of that on this little Zoom recorder, literally just like a headphone out to a headphone in on the Zoom, and just hit record, and just whatever I played became the track. So yeah, having some portable stuff, if you're really into making music, is fabulous, because it just means that you don't have to sit down, turn it all on, make sure your computer's running and the drivers are updated and all that kind of stuff. Did I record via USB to the Zoom? No, I didn't. Let me check the Zoom. Hold on a second. You guys have got me digging through the cupboards today. That's my little Zoom recorder. I don't think you can actually record digitally with it. I might be wrong, but I think it's literally like microphone for recording. You can turn it into a USB microphone, so when you turn it on, you've got an option to switch it to that, and then whatever goes into the USB cable comes out of the USB cable, you can plug into your computer. And Inky says yes, you can. Talk to Mike, he'll answer all your questions, and then he'll go and talk to chat, and they'll answer them for him, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. I appreciate that. No, seriously, it's useful to hear all the additional stuff that you guys know that I don't. I don't purport to know it all. I just, as I say, I just like sharing. When will you do a live session for us, says PK, on Friday evening? I'll get some ciders in. I really want to keep making live stuff to play back. So this week has just been mental. I just haven't had a chance. As I say, I had one member of the family got COVID like 2 weeks ago, and has been struggling. But I mean, COVID free for at least a week now, but still trying to get back on their feet. And another member of the family's got a health issue that's come up, which is a bit more challenging. So yeah, funny story. Finished work at about 5 o'clock yesterday evening. Sat down and had a chat with the family and had a little bit of food. And I just said, I know it's like only 7 o'clock, but I think I'm going to just go and have a half an hour kip on the bed, have a half an hour lie down, shut my eyes. 3 hours later, the wife wakes me up. I'm like, what, is it time to go to work now? I felt like I'd had a full night's sleep, and it was the morning, and everybody was chasing me because I needed to get going again. But no, I was just absolutely wiped out. So live sessions, live jams. Yes, I want to do some more of those. So if I get a chance over the weekend, maybe I'll start on one. I have actually got another project that I should be doing. I'll give you a quick intro to that. We're getting old. Hold on, I am old. Yeah, you and me both, mate. Just bear with me a second. Let me find a couple of files. And I'm going to do a shout out for somebody who this is a little collaboration on. That's really bad. I've lost the files for the minute. Perhaps they're in my videos folder. Yes, they're in my videos folder. So, Heatpod Music, thank you. Nice to see you. I believe this is the first time I've seen you in the chat, so thank you very much for coming on board. Love all your Roland TR8S videos, mate. They really help me a lot. I'm really pleased they help. That's great. As with anything on the stream or on my videos, if there's something that you're struggling with and you want some help, then please drop me a message, and if I don't know, I'll try and find out. And as Inky's just proved, there's a lot of other knowledgeable people in the chat who will help you out too. Right, what was I trying to do? I was trying to find my secondary screen. Here we go. So, there is a chap that I've been in touch with who is very into an older video game called Thief, and he's got the editor for it, and he's created some cool videos that I've said that I would like to work with and create some sort of music video type thing. So this is what he's been producing, and I thought this was pretty cool, sort of psychedelic stuff. So what I should be doing, as well as maybe doing some live work, is coming up with some ideas to add to this. I'll skip through some of these, but these are pretty cool, I think. It's almost like a geometric cityscape, but it's taken in an abstract way. So, yeah, there you go. So I just thought these were really fun. And if I can come up with some decent sounds, then we're going to do one music video on his channel and one on my channel, and we'll do a bit of a combo on that. So that's what I should be working on. He's done some other bits too, which are in a similar vein. So you got some like tours around an old cathedral, but like a very abstract sort of geometric style thing. What else did we have? Oh, that one didn't work. Yes, that was a file that was a bit corrupt. So, and we got some sort of real strange visuals that we can work with. Anyway, yeah, that's something that I was hoping to jump onto soon. Devon Detroit. Have I tried the Echo Force? I haven't. I've seen some videos with it, and it looks like a really nice piece of kit. I gather it had some problems when it first came out. Things were perhaps not working software-wise or not fully finished, but I think those have all been resolved. And that's quite common, isn't it? Let's face it these days. I haven't tried the Echo Force, but I think I would like to one day. Equipment-wise, I try not to spend too much on new bits of gear. If I have recently, it's been things like a booster for my microphone and like a stand for a touchpad thing. So at the minute, I'm trying to limit myself a little bit. Andreas Weber, do you know how to save a random pattern on the TB3? I just got from the docs that I should press the real-time record button when it's flashing, but that seems not to be saving it. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Andreas. I'm going to have to check. The TB3 is something that I've had for a couple of years, and I've thrown it into a few mixes, and I've had to check the manual every time I do something with it. I've added some, just give me a second here. I've added some sort of sticky labels and things of my own to the interface so that I know more about what the shortcut keys are. It is a really good piece of kit, but it's probably got the worst interface I've ever come across, particularly for a Roland piece of gear. That's quite a bad indictment. I can't remember is the short answer. The long answer is I'll look back at this stream and check the question, and then I'll try and find out, and I'll post a message on that. Be blown away by it. It has a looper also for live sets. It's pretty sweet. Make sure you TD3 it in right mode, then save. Yeah, the Akai Force I think is like a workstation more than a standalone piece of live gear, standalone piece of music gear. I guess it's a bit like the MPC in some ways. For me, I mean everybody's different, so don't take this as an instruction. This is just me spouting my valueless opinion. For me, I like having either all of the control in the world on a DAW, or having very limited hardware or limited control on the hardware, because that gets my brain working. The hardware gets my brain working, and then the software lets me use all of the fancy bits and pieces. So I think with a Force, I'd probably feel a little bit like I was trying to use a computer on a small device. So I think that probably wouldn't work out for me, I would guess, but that's just my opinion. Right, coming up to 9 p.m. here in the UK. It's a Friday evening, and we've been running for a little while. So I'm going to say a good night to you, I think. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really pleased that so many people have popped in and said hello again. So that's really cool. What do you think, Connie?
I think it's time I got my memory wiped to avoid the long-term trauma of being on this YouTube channel. Anywho, back to work I go.
Yeah, she's very opinionated, isn't she? So yeah, take care, guys. Thank you very much for popping in. If I get a chance, I'll put up some video material during the week. If not, I'll be streaming again as soon as I can. So Devon, yeah, basically a laptop with an Akai push attached, which is a cool piece of kit, but yeah, perhaps that's a good sign for me to stick with what I've got. Lovely. Take care, chaps and chapesses. If you pop by next time, I will speak to you then. Take care.